Jane Anna is a mother, nature-based guide, red tent carrier, and women's rite of passage mentor. Her work is deeply informed by her own life journey, land initiations, mentorship with elders, pilgrimage, and years of study. She supports women in reconnecting with themselves, the natural world, and the transformative power of life's thresholds and transitions. This is such a rich, healing, and empowering conversation for women of all ages, but especially for those of you who are ready to look at what we inherited, what you want to heal within yourself and your lineage, and what you want to pass on differently to the girls and women who come after you. Welcome to Higher Self Mastery, the podcast for women ready to leave behind who they were told to be and remember who they truly are. I'm your host, Dharmi Schumacher. This is your space to come home to yourself, to honor the inner pull for more truth and more depth, and more meaning as you enter a new chapter of your life. Together, we're reframing midlife crisis into the midlife magic that it actually is, because this is your rebirth. Through soulful conversations and spiritual tools, you'll reconnect to your truth and reclaim your voice and live the life that your soul came here for. So let's begin. Welcome, Jane, to the Higher Self Mastery podcast. I am so grateful to have you come and share your wisdom and your story with my audience today. So, Jane, you and I met very recently at the Soul Revolution Festival in the Red Tent, and I was immediately drawn to the Red Tent that particular day as I was on my moon cycle. I was a little bit in my head, feeling very, very hot. It was over that crazy heat wave that we had over the bank holiday weekend, and I was curious. It was this most inviting yoni entrance, and I poked my head in, and it was just so serene, so calming, so safe and relaxing in there. And I came inside and I sat down, and you were there, and we got chatting, and we had the most divine, heartfelt conversation. And I remember after about 20 minutes of talking to you, I said, I wish we had recorded this, because my audience would find this so interesting and find so much value in this. And so, because we couldn't do the recording in person at the festival that weekend, we decided to rain check it, and here we are. So I am so grateful for this divine interaction and for the conversation that is about to unfold. So, Jane, I'm going to hand over to you. Would you like to tell my audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you came to do this work, and just a little bit of your story and journey?
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a privilege and an honor to be invited onto your show, and to share my voice in this way, and also just the beauty of the red tent, as I was also like bleeding when we met. And I feel like it's such a representative of this work, is that we didn't manage to record on the day when we were both like in honor of our own cycles, and now we've got the space to come back together and continue this flow of energy between us. So my name is Jane. I am a mother. I am a nature-based women's mentor, a carrier of the red tent, and a women's rite of passage guide. And my life's work has been deeply, deeply informed by my own lived experience. I come from a family of survivors, and just the impact that had on my early life and what I experienced and bear witness to as a young person, it really shattered my reality. And it took me such a long time to make peace with and come into acceptance of, and it sent me on this journey of healing my maternal line and really reclaiming my femininity and my womb, my sensuality, my essence as a woman. And it lit a fire in me for change, to create change, to create spaces for women and girls to be together, to come into safety together within their bodies, and to really share their voice and to share their experiences and to retrieve the sanctity of what it means to be a woman and a girl in these modern times. So yeah, my journey is really deeply inspired and moved by my lived experience.
Wow. It's so interesting what you said there, Jane, and thank you so much for being so honest and transparent, because as unfortunate as it is, so many women listening will be able to relate to that as well. And what instantly came to my mind, without digressing too much here, but I did say we wanted this to just be a fluid conversation. So who knows where this conversation's actually going to go. Whether we can remember or have awareness or that information from our maternal lineage, we carry at least 6 generations worth of trauma within our DNA and how it still affects us today in our maternal lineage. And I remember a few months ago, I did a meditation and followed back my ancestral maternal lineage. And something that was surprising, but at the same time didn't shock me, was what came up for me was, I think, in my maternal lineage, from what download I received that day, maybe like 3 or 4 generations ago, there was also cases of sexual abuse. And it pains me to say it, but I think this would be true for almost every woman, whether we're aware of it or not, because that is the history of women. And it was a lot more difficult generations ago for women to be able to have their say, to stand up for themselves. Of course, this varies from culture to culture and from lineage to lineage, but almost certainly if we're carrying 6 generations worth of trauma and DNA and energy in our bodies, things that are affecting how we show up as women, then almost certainly within those 6 generations, there's going to be a woman who has had some kind of encounter with sexual harassment, sexual abuse, whether it be as a child or as an adult. And it's this healing that we're here to do, to heal those ancestral wounds, so that we don't pass it on, so that we don't continue that cycle as well. So thank you so much for sharing your truth and your story, because it's so important for women to hear. So your personal journey that has now brought you to this work. Tell me, Jane, what did it really begin with? How did it begin to unfold? I imagine you didn't just start facilitating and holding space within the red tent. Different things unfolded for you. Do you want to share a little bit about how this came to grow into what it is?
I feel a big part of my journey was that I was looking for the Great Mother. I was looking for the mother, which feels like it's also been kind of taken out of our culture, our society. And I found that through my journeys with the land, like pilgrimaging to Glastonbury, Avalon, and really awakening to this mother consciousness within the earth that I feel women are now really tapping back into and awakening through their own bodies, their own voice, their own womb, is this remembrance of the feminine and the mother. And through this journey that I was, traversing lots of different landscapes, for me, it was meeting elders, actually. I met a lot of elders and was taken in by elder women who really kind of brought me into this deep embodiment and this like recovery of my own sacredness, because I had been through so much fragmentation. I feel like through meeting these, the I feel very blessed because elders are also rare in our in our world, like real humble, embodied women who, yeah, I was really graced to sit at the feet of and take in their wisdom, and through their reflections really remembered myself. And that's through like the teachings of these women, I feel like I've just grown more and more into my own embodiment. And through motherhood as well, it's like becoming a mother and traversing that rite of passage with the wisdom from the elders, the wisdom of what rites of passages are, and the huge transitions that we go through as a woman, and actually what we can unlock inside of ourselves when we have the wisdom of what these passages are guiding us into.
Oh, I love that. The wisdom and the healing nature of our elders, I can so resonate with that. Like over the last few years, as I've had to do a lot of healing around my sister wounds and witch wounds, as we all do as women. And through that journey, once I began to heal, some of the women that I really enjoyed connecting with was the elder women, the elder sisters. And because especially those women who have walked this path and done some of the healing themselves, because this is no judgment on my blood family at all, but the older women in my actual direct family, I love them, and they absolutely do have a lot of wisdom to share and good examples to follow, but they really don't fully embody the type of elder, the type of wise woman that I would hope to be as I grow into this as well, and then be that leader or beacon for other women and girls to follow, because there's still a lot of wounding in them that they just haven't done. They haven't done that healing. And I love how you say this rites of passage. Like, I am in this beautiful phase in my life where I am transitioning. I'm in the mage, so I'm no longer just mother. I'm not yet crone, but I'm a mage because I'm in this perimenopausal phase, and I can really feel this beautiful, that in itself births so much beauty and confidence and wisdom. But also my daughter is still fairly young, so I'm still very needed. I'm still mother, but I'm not quite crone yet either. And I love looking up to the elder sisters who are in their crone phase. And then my daughter is a tween, so she's now going into maidenhood. From child to maiden, and watching that transition and that rite of passage, it just brings up so much. Like, this is such, all of these transitions, all of these passageways are so sacred, and they're not to be feared. It's not about losing anything, but more a celebration into this new way of being, this new identity. And I in my own transition, I'm thoroughly embracing all of that. I'm not saying it's easy. There are days when I do judge myself and think about how I used to be and mourn that and grieve that as well, just because it's part of the process for sure. But we spoke about this the other day when we were there together in the red tent, but so much of this healing that we do as women is not just for us, but the girls and the women that are coming after us, whether we have daughters or not, maybe it's our nieces, maybe it will be our granddaughters, or maybe it's the women and the girls in the community at large, if you don't have your own family. And it's only through our own healing we're going to be able to guide and lead them as well. And we talked about how we both didn't have an ideal passage when we were teenagers and we first started to bleed. I know I was made to feel really ashamed of my moon blood starting. And only now, as an adult, I can see how beautiful and sacred and important this rite of passage is. And I really want to do my daughter the service of giving her a very different experience of this. Um, can you share a little bit about what was your experience as well when you first started your moon cycle and your bleed? Because I think a lot of women probably can relate to this just because of the generational difference.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same, as there was a lot of shame, a lot of taboo, a lot of just kind of get on with it. It's like, here's your towels,
Yeah.
and that's it. And
Yeah.
there's no real reverence for actually you are being initiated into the creational cycle, what it is to be a woman, which is it's our power, it's our, it's the place that where we receive our visions. It's how we come into creation of our life and what we are here to be in service to. So I feel, as a mother and just as a woman now, for the future generations, it is really time to change this story and to spread it wider into culture at large, that a woman's blood is sacred, and also for the men to really start to, come into honor what it actually means to be a bleeding woman on every dimension of being, because it affects like our spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. It's a purification, the blood. And I feel like actually when we come back into harmony and reverence for this, the world will shift. The world will come
Yeah.
back in tune with these cycles that we are all moving through, whether we are men or women.
Yeah, 100%. And it's what you said right at the beginning, that it's reclaiming back our power because we've been made to feel like it's something that is dirty, by society, by organized religions, and it's just become the norm. And I think, yes, absolutely, it's an important conversation to have with everyone, with our children, with our partners, with other men, our brothers, our sisters. Um, but I see so much shame and just in women, amongst women, right? And I remember coming into the tent and saying to you, and I'll speak very candidly here, um, we were at a festival, so you were using compost toilets, right? There was no flush away system. And I used the compost toilet, and I remember emptying my moon cup and then immediately feeling concerned and self-conscious that the next person who was going to come in was going to see my blood. And I had to catch myself as I came out of there. It took me a little moment, but I had to catch myself and remind myself, and so what, Dharmi? And so what if they see your blood? Like, for one, don't worry about what other people are going to think, right? But secondly, why are you still holding on to that shame? Because it isn't nothing to be shamed about at all. And I really have been consciously, I mean, I am perimenopausal, so I don't bleed regularly anymore. But I still think this work is so important for me to do to heal my shame around our menstrual blood, because it is so deep rooted, and it filters into all different areas of our life. I was raised in a very religious household, and in that particular religion, when a woman is bleeding, she is not welcomed to visit the house of God. she's told to stay at home and told to stay away, right? And who made that up? Men made that up, right? But from a very young age, you were told to sort of like hide it, and it was something dirty, and it was all this hush hush, like don't talk about it. And that has massively impacted my confidence around my sexuality, my just how creative and expressive I feel I can be is something I have had to really undo. Like you said, it's the seat of our creation, it's the seat of birthing. It's a gift. And I wonder, did you notice in different ways how that shaming that you experienced around your menstrual cycle showed up in your life for you in ways that it may have held you back, that you have had to now recondition?
Yeah, I feel it's so deep for women collectively. Like it can take a long time to really peel back these layers of shame and reclaim ourselves as women. And, we are bombarded with, it's like we are so used to seeing blood that comes from violence and war. But then when it comes to a woman's menstrual blood, which is the blood that creates life, that creates every person on this planet, we don't want to see that, or we're pushing that away. So yeah, I feel like I've definitely had to work through just many, many layers of, also for me, it's been working with my cycle and working with my blood to release the shame itself. So I feel like the
Mm.
premenstrual time, the luteal phase just before we bleed, is when the ancestral body is really loud. It's that time when we can really feel what is in the shadow. We can feel the shame, we can feel the irritation, we can feel the rage. And for me, I consciously engage with that as a practice to, okay, what is coming up for me in this time that I can then gather my blood and take it to the earth in ceremony, and choose to release the shame through connecting my blood and giving it to the earth in this way, and letting go of this, these emotions and these heavy energies that we have held on to. So I feel that's been a really beautiful practice of transforming and alchemizing the shame itself.
I love that. Working with my cycle is something that's still quite new to me, and I've chose to begin that work while I'm not necessarily experiencing a release of my blood each month as well. So it's a little bit inconsistent, and the hormones are a little bit different. But I love, I'd love to hear a little bit more about. You said you work with um, that those days just before you actually start bleeding, with those emotions that come up, the shadows that come up. Is there anything in particular, any rituals or exercises or anything that you use that you find are really powerful, that maybe some women who are listening in and are feeling like, yeah, I want to start doing this work myself a bit more as well, that you could share?
So I feel that phase is my time to engage with shadow work. So I will journal with really tuning in to my body and what I am feeling. Because for me, it brings up a lot of grief. It brings up a lot of anger. It brings up a lot of, as I said, it's like I'm tuning into the ancestral, as you were touching on earlier. It is the 6 generations behind, so it might not necessarily be what I've experienced in my life, but it's unprocessed or unmetabolized experiences of women before me. And it's really being present with what is alive in my field. And I also feel like it's a time to yoni steam. So I work with herbs like the raspberry leaf, the rose, anything that you can ingest, you can actually steam, which really draws a lot of warmth and connection into the pelvis and the pelvic bowl and the womb to actually soften anything that is like alive in that time, because it's like we can engage with the shadow, but also it needs a lot of gentleness and a lot of care, like to allow that shame to move and to become something different. So yeah, for me, the practice of steaming,
Beautiful.
and
Mm.
journaling and just being really in touch with my body, my felt sense experience.
Beautiful. I love that you brought up the yoni steaming because that was something we touched on. Again, it's been something that I've been curious about for a while now, and but I hadn't met a anybody in person because it was something that I didn't want to just learn about online and then dive straight into it. It's something that is so much more embodied. I needed to speak to somebody face to face and have this kind of connection. So when I met Jane a couple of weekends ago, I did actually walk away and leave the red tent with a beautiful fusion of I think it was chamomile and rose petals, wasn't it? And you've just reminded me that I'm ready for some steaming. So I think that's what I'm going to do after this recording because so it's something that you said that you do before you start your blood cycle, but you suggested when we were there that I try doing it after I finish as well. Is that correct? So can we speak a little bit about this yoni steaming? I love how you said that we're purging because it can be really heavy. It can be quite a lot to handle, but like I said, it has to be met with that gentleness as well. And steaming is so gentle and soft, isn't it?
Yeah. So I use the herbs before, like the 3 days before and the 3 days after, as a way to really keep like the womb energy in flow. Because if we think the blood is coming, so it's preparing the cervix and the womb to actually release the blood, to soften all of the tissues, like to soften everything in the pelvic bowl, to bring warmth. I feel warmth is so important for our wombs. Even like wearing socks at that time of the month, just keeping that area really, really warm so we can let go, so we can let the blood flow. And then after the cycle, it's just like, again, bringing in that flow after we have released the blood, cleansing. It's like I use herbs that are really cleansing. You can use herbs that have all different properties that, clean out, and it just bring that care into our bodies, what I feel like women just really, really need at every stage of the cycle.
Mm. And I think it's such a beautiful way as well to intentionally bring some love and care, as you said, to our womb area because it's unseen, because it's hidden behind the flesh, the skin. We don't really give it that much tender care and attention like we really ought to because of just all the work that it does, just because of how important it is biologically, but also emotionally and energetically for a woman as well. But we don't really tend to it, do we? We're aware when we're bleeding, but it's more often than not met with a inconvenience, like, oh, I'm bleeding, so I will have to do this, and that means I have to make more trips to the bathroom when I'm at work, or I won't be able to go swimming, or I'm not going to have as much energy, and it becomes this inconvenience rather than honoring the beautiful gift that it is and really pouring love into it, really pouring that gentleness into it. And I hear what you say about keeping warm. I mean, that's why we so often place warm hot water bottles, don't we, around our womb and our uterus and that area when we are bleeding, because it is soothing, it is healing to have that warmth in that area. So, but I love the extra, the added socks and all of those kind of things as well. It's all lovely. It's that gentleness, isn't it? It's really shifting our mind from shame and inconvenience and this hard negative attitude towards that time of our month and that process of our body, and flipping it on its head and saying thank you, and I appreciate you, and I see you, and I'm going to care for you, and I love you, and pouring that warmth and that love into it. Now, we speak quite a bit about the cycle here today, because it is a, correct me if I'm wrong, um, a large part of what the Red Tent is about, which is, of course, where we met and were divinely brought together. And I'd love for you, Jane, to just explain to the listeners what the Red Tent actually does. What purpose does it serve? Because I first came across the Red Tent about no, how many years would it have been? When I was pregnant with my daughter, so 12 years ago, and I was at a festival, and I remember seeing the Red Tent, and I was immediately drawn to it, and it was my first encounter of a red tent, and I remember thinking, oh, a space just for women, and it was this red tent, literally, and this tiny little space that you go in, which looked really sacred, but I still didn't fully understand its purpose. And ever since then, when I have come across a red tent, not only have I instinctively been drawn to it, but I'm starting to better understand with each visit what purpose it serves. But I think for my listeners who are tuning in, maybe they've never heard of a red tent, or maybe they've walked past one and didn't understand what it was, or that it was for them, and so they didn't go in and explore. Or maybe like me, they walked in but didn't quite know what they were supposed to be doing there. Would you please speak a little bit more about this particular space that is so sacred and exclusively for women?
So the Red Tent to me is a women's gathering space where women come to honor every phase of their womanhood, for women to come and be together, to really drop into that feminine beingness, just a space to rest, to let go of all the worldly demands and actually move into the womb space, move into the seat of their power, move into this women's remembrance that we are not men, and we operate cyclically, and yes, we are living in a world that is very linear, and women are ambitious and we want to have these careers, but also we are women and we operate cyclically, and we really need to honor this part of us that is softer, that does need rest, that does need care, that we are designed to heal as women through connection, through oxytocin, through these hormonal engagement systems with each other. That is how we are biologically wired, is that when we gather and when we come together, we actually drop into more safety, more pleasure, more vibrance, more vitality, because we give each other that permission to let go and just be who we are.
That's definitely the vibe I got when I stepped into your space that you were holding at Soul Revolution, because I was really happy to see that it was being used by a lot of different women of different ages, from as young as early 20s to people like myself who are well in their mid 40s. And immediately there was this sense of safety. which then allows you to just drop everything and rest, because there's not a single guard up. And that is so needed, because so many women don't have that. So many women work in environments perhaps where women are just competing against each other. And so they don't feel safe to be seen with other women. They don't feel this connection. They don't feel a sisterhood. And within this red space, it really was, there was no judgment. There was nobody watching anybody else. Like, everyone was there for their own healing. And in amongst that collective energy, it, like you said, is that connection with other women that really allows the healing to take place, whether you were just resting with your eyes closed, whether we were sitting and reading or having, divine conversations like you and I did. It was just such a energized, well, not energized, but a space where you could recuperate and refuel. Um, so, practically speaking, we mentioned a few things there. What sort of things do women come in the space and do?
I feel like my red tent that I'm carrying now is at festivals. So a lot of women are coming in to rest, to find like a sanctuary space where the festivals can be busy and overwhelming, and often they need just that moment to recalibrate and to come back into their own center, to like hear their own voice again. Because as you know, like life can touch us in so many different ways that we can get lost. So I feel a lot of women come in, and it's, for me, I really like to engage like the senses with the smells and, the massage oils, and it's just bringing women into, okay, I'm back in my body. Like I'm here, I'm present, and I'm connected to myself. Um, as well as that, we have like daughters coming in who are experiencing their first bleed. We have women coming in who are looking for cyclical education, who may be just discovering their cycle for the first time, who may be menopausal, perimenopausal, and are only just really starting to reclaim their womb and their bodies. So we get such a variation of women from all walks of life. I think it's just a curiosity because it's something that is ancient in us. It's something that we have known, and we have been together communally as women since the beginning of time. So it's always going to spark that remembrance when women see a red tent or a bleeding space, is, oh yes, this is something that I already know, even if I'm not sure. Even if I'm like, oh, it's there,
Mm. You're absolutely right. And I think it's beautiful how it'd be wonderful for spaces like the Red Tent to become so readily available in every neighborhood, in every city, every town, and every single woman have access to a space like that, because ancestrally speaking, we would have. When we lived in tribes, when we lived in villages, so often after a woman had finished birthing her child, or when she was bleeding, there would be these quiet spaces of rest where she was invited to go and retreat, not because it was shameful, not to pull her out of the community and outcast her, but so that she can just rest and be with herself and in her body, as because it does take so much of our life force and so much of our energy when we are in our bleed. But also it would have been that space where like you said, right at the beginning, where we would have learned from our elders as well and listened to their wisdom, ask them those questions to better understand ourselves and how to walk this path. And this has all become so lost to us because it was demonized, because it has been turned into a shameful activity, and how we as women have been segregated and pulled away from each other and turned against each other. So you're right, it is in our ancestral blood for it to be a very natural thing for women to come and sit together and heal together. Um, and I love that it is a space that is used by all different generations in different ways. Um, Now, how would you say, Jane, this kind of healing, we've talked quite a lot about this is the seat of our power as women, the womb area, and the importance of reclaiming that power and doing some of that ancestral healing. Could you speak a little bit about if we don't do this work, what that could end up looking like for us at different ages, and some of the danger perhaps in, because for a woman who may have had this calling, who may have had this tug, because it's so alien, maybe nobody in her family's ever done anything like it before, it just seems a little bit too out of her comfort zone, a little bit too scary, um, that she avoids it, perhaps. But could you speak a little bit about if we don't do this healing, if we don't address and come together in community with women, um, some of the dangers that we may end up sort of continuing in those sort of cycles?
Mhm. So, from my understanding, I actually carry a lineage of work called the Map of Womanhood, which is the 9 physiological rites of passage from birth to death. That was given to me by elders who created lodges for women and girls. And actually, every rite of passage is leading on to the next one. So it's like how we are held as we are approaching like childhood and moving to teenage years. It directly impacts the next one. So how we are held through our first blood, it impacts how we give birth, and so on and so forth. And so it affects every layer of the being. And often what we see now in this current modern world is women who are coming to menopause, who haven't done any of this healing or this recovery of themselves, and then menopause becomes this huge crisis where it's like their body is having all kinds of symptoms, physical symptoms, and it's if we look back, it's because there's been a loss of this wisdom, a loss of this community holding, and women are kind of fragmented from themselves, or the disorientated, because these rites of passages, it is affecting us on such a deep level where we are letting go of one version of ourselves and becoming a more embodied version of ourselves. But if we don't have that, like, witnessing from the outside world, it's like we're in this liminal space and we don't know who we are. And it creates this havoc in our bodies. So for me, it's really bringing in this awareness, this consciousness that women really need to tend to themselves and hold each other through these passages, so that we can really stay connected to like every part of our being as we move through these cycles.
Mm. Wow, that makes so much sense. Um, And I love that you've brought that to my attention, but also the attention of our listeners, because most of the women tuning in will be in their menopause, perimenopause, or fast approaching that phase, and wondering why the symptoms are so severe. And you're absolutely right, because nothing is isolated, is it? And it's a progression of how we were witnessed, how what our experience was during each and every one of these passages, all the way back from before it was within our control. But having that knowledge, having that awareness, we can then go back and do perhaps the inner child work, like you said, that some of that shadow work, to release it and to free it, bring some peace there as well. But also how we then give ourselves grace as we transition and go through this rite of passage, but also for any of those younger women in our lives or girls in our lives, how we then communicate that wisdom. Because I think most women tuning in are already in a position where they've got younger women looking up to them as role models, or certainly will be stepping into that role. So even if that healing has come quite late in our own lives, it's never too late, because we need more older sisters, elder sisters who have done that healing, who have that wisdom, that lived wisdom, to then guide other younger women who are, maybe still just in their maiden age or in their motherhood. So then they don't have to carry so much trauma, or can do the healing and be witnessed as they move. Um, yeah, that witnessing of every single transition is so important, isn't it? To be seen, just to be seen, to be accepted fully as we are, and how that can compound if it's not as well. Wow. Jane, you don't only just facilitate a red tent space. You mentioned at the beginning some of the other things that you do, and it's all around working with women. It's all around this healing of ourselves. I'd love for you to share more about some of the other things that you do, because I think it's all going to be very valuable and interesting to our listeners.
So yeah, as well as the red tent, which feels like it's just a space for connection, and it's a space which feels more accessible for all kinds of people who are maybe just starting on this journey and just want to dip the toes in. I then offer like spaces for women to go deeper into this rite of passage. I see it as like a catch up for people. So it's women who may not have had the community witnessing through the child, through the first bleed, but then we can bring in that witnessing, that ceremony space, so that we can rewrite the story for ourselves and prepare for the next passages that we are going to go through, because we are all moving through these, whether we are conscious or not. So it's bringing in this education of the cycles that we move through as women, and what is really supportive for us to go through. It's a death and rebirth, to go through the immensity of what that is, and be held and be witnessed, and feel like it's okay for me to let go. It's okay for me to go into this liminal space and to not know who I am. Like, I need to be in that grieving of the old self so that the new self can emerge. But we don't have that culture yet that is supportive of these passages, and people are kind of just move, just go, just keep going with life. And then what we miss is actually the wisdom and the gifts that women rarely receive when they allow themselves to move through the immensity of these rites of passage. As you said, you're going through menopause. I can already imagine the immensity of what that is moving inside of you, and the wisdom that will bring on the other side. So for me, it's facilitating these thresholds in a way where each woman can bring her jewels, her diamonds, her wisdom into the world from these experiences, and curating spaces where every woman has a voice. Like every woman in the village needs to have a voice at every age, because we are all feeding each other. Whether you are an elder or a child, we all have something to share. And yeah, that's what I'm really passionate about, is like seeing this bigger picture of collective cultural healing, and connecting women to the natural world as well. Like I do a lot of nature-based mentorship, so it is connecting people to animism, to the living earth, connecting women to the voice of the earth, the dream that the earth has for their life. And this all ties into me to the bleed. It's like the bleed is the space that opens up the vision, that opens up the dream in time, that opens up these other realms of imagination, you know, of these new ways that are moving through us all. Like this new earth that we are all here to create is really supported by the blood and by the natural world moving through us.
Oh, I love that. And as you said right at the beginning, your own journey began and healing began with walking this land because, well, Pachamama, Mother Earth, is not called Mother Earth just because that's somebody decided that's the label. We'll give the women that one, right? It's because she creates, she births just as we do, and she is first and foremost our first mother. And so for women who may not feel like they've got directly in their community or in their families, sisters, women that they can turn to for this kind of community and support, I'd just like to remind them that Mother Earth is your first mother, and she will always, always hold us, always, always hold us and heal us. And that is available to each and every one of us, thankfully. How would you say, if you talked about some of the different ways in which you mentor women, some of the things that you might do to work with them, to help them. Can you tell me a little bit more, please, Jane, about what that would actually look like? So any of the women who are tuning in today, listening to you say, I want to find out a little bit about how I can work with Jane and what that might look like. Are these one-to-one? Are they done in groups? Are they done online, in person? Can you just give us some of those, a little bit more sort of practical sides of what that could be?
Yeah, so I hold like small group intimate containers at the moment from my home. I am in the Northwest, and I create ceremonies to work with the map of womanhood. So we open the map and we go through the teachings of the 9 rites of passages. And then the way I work is we actually go to the land, we go to the forest, and we open up to nature as a mirror for our own stories, for our own life. And this is how we bring in the healing. And when we come back from the land, we share our stories, and I often mirror people's stories in a way where I am listening to the essence. I'm listening to the voice of a woman's soul. So I'm listening to the purest part before all of the conditioning, before all of the, before life got in the way. I'm listening to a woman's essence and mirroring that back in a way where she can really start to receive herself, receive like the gifts and the beauty of her life. So that's the small group containers, but I offer that also one-to-one. I offer that online. Yeah, I have Instagram, like if anyone would like to connect. Online, I work in a way where you are invited to create the space within your own home. So you will create your own map of womanhood. And, it's very, very personal. So you will be working with your pictures of yourself as a child. You will be working with you will be bringing in like your ancestors, whatever is supportive for you to create your own personal ceremony. Because ultimately it is about a woman coming into deep relationship with herself, with her own wisdom, with her own gnosis that I believe comes from her life, what she has lived.
Beautiful. And of course, I will be putting all of the links in the show notes, so that you can get in touch and dive into Jane's world. Just a few things you said there, Jane, before we start to bring this conversation to a close. How you help women to begin to create this themselves in their own homes. For anyone who's listening and wants to get started immediately, can you maybe suggest a couple of things that they could begin to do, that would be really easy for them to get started on at home?
I feel the first thing would be to create an altar. So to create a space with like a beautiful altar that you can connect to every day. Whether you have like objects from nature, I like to have like a beautiful lotus flower candle, and then start to bring in photos of, the times in your life that have been really pivotal. So your own birth is so important. And start to actually ask like your mother if it's possible. Start to like really tune into the stories, like the stories of your birth, the stories of your childhood, the stories of your first blood, and really get curious about how these experiences have shaped you as a woman, what you learned from these experiences, and how you'd like to change and how you'd like to bring like restoration, what you'd like the new story to be. So for me, it's really creating a space where you can really be held in the comfort of your own home, your own space, your own essence with your allies from the land, from nature. A really supportive space to start this journey for yourself.
And would this, oh, you've given me so many ideas there. My brain was ticking away about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. Would this altar be a separate altar? Say to maybe some of these women listening already have altars, right? I know I already do. But instinctively I'm feeling like, no, it's got to be different. It's got to be a separate little space, which is really soft and feminine. Does it need to be, or not necessarily so?
I feel personally, the more intention you can bring to like an altar space, if you can create an altar space which has that very, very personal intention of what you are trying to bring healing to, it's going to have more impact than if you have just one altar for everything. because it's really bringing your energy and your focus and your attention into this like precise journey that you are cultivating for yourself. So I feel,
Beautiful.
if you are already in the space of having a beautiful feminine altar and it feels right, then yes. But I feel like for me, it's creating an altar that represents what I am bringing my intention into specifically for healing.
I
And
think
that will
that's so important,
change.
isn't it?
The altar will change as you are, as you are journeying.
Yes. I
I
love
feel like
that. I love
our
that. And I
altars
think
are. I just feel like the altar itself is alive.
absolutely, because as with everything in life, it evolves, doesn't it? And it grows as we evolve and we grow, 100%. And I think that's a really nice, like, creating an altar for this shift in our different phases of life as we transition from one move through one passageway to another passageway as well is a really easy way to get some younger members involved as well. Because if I say to my daughter, create an altar, I think she'll do it just like that, rather than some of the other things. But it's the small little entry points that feel easy to access and start to introduce her to creating this sacred intention around what is happening as she changes and grows as well. There are so many other things that have come to my mind that we could talk on. However, I am conscious of your time and I want to be respectful of that as well. And there's just so much to be explored in this conversation about whether that's our cycles and how we honor and work our blood. And just something that I do actually want to share for the ladies who are tuning in. As we've already said, it's never too late. Like, the healing is never too late. Even if you have already become are you fully into your crone era and are established in menopause as well, and you don't have a bleed anymore, it's just never too late to do that ancestral healing, because if we don't do it, then we're just going to pass it on, and we need to start to dissolve and start changing the narrative there. But personally, as I am still bleeding, some of the things that I have begun to do that I have found so empowering, as you said, our power is there. I have begun to return my moon blood back to the earth. Not always, but I try to. And you mentioned that you do as well. And I'm actually really tempted on my next cycle to paint with my menstrual blood as well. I know there's this gorgeous lady that I found on Instagram. I can't for the life of me remember. If I find it, I'll link it in the notes for anyone who's interested. But she paints with her menstrual blood. And I remember when I first saw that, I was like a little bit taken aback. But again, that's the conditioning that we've been made to feel like it's something to hide. And here she is, just like not only fully accepting it and embodying it, but like putting it out on show for everybody as well. But she creates the most beautiful feminine artwork with her own menstrual blood. So those are some of the things that I've begun to do. I think also now when I'm keen, after we met at the Red Tent and my experience after talking to you, I was called to buy a red dress. This is something that just feels so comfortable and easy to wear, that's light and it's flowing, and a long dress that I can wear when I'm bleeding at home. So I can be free and I can just bleed, just put a cloth down when I sit down and just allow my blood to really flow, and honor and proudly wear that and say, yes, I'm on my moon cycle. Yes, I am bleeding. And what a gift it is that I still have that. So those are some of the little things. If some of the ladies listening, like, oh, what can I do? I just wanted to add my two pence worth in there as well. Some of the ideas that have come to me. Now, Jane, we're going to link all of your social medias, or if you've got a website or any of those things, all the ways that women will be able to get in touch with you in the show notes. So please, I urge you ladies to do that. As you can hear, Jane is one of those beautiful women who is so grounded, so calm, and it's just an absolute gift and pleasure to be in her company. So not only do I encourage you to seek her out and join her world and get involved, but if you can go and do some work in person, it is something you will carry with you for a long time to come. Like, I can still feel your energy from when we
Oh.
spoke at the festival, and I'm so, so grateful to have met you. Is there anything coming up in the near future that our ladies can get involved in?
So on the 10th to the 12th of July next month, me and another beautiful woman are holding a weekend pilgrimage in Glastonbury, which is the heart chakra of the earth, sacred lands that we were both initiated into through living there. So this is a non-residential pilgrimage where we will be walking the land, we will be tending the fire, we will be bathing in the sacred springs, and we will be gathering as women to receive these beautiful, pristine frequencies of the land itself, of the mother, of the divine feminine Rose Magdalene energy that these lands hold. Um, so yeah, if you are interested in that, that is in July, and I am also holding a small, intimate, earth-based group mentorship for women around the map of womanhood, which is the work that I have been talking about. So it is the women's rite of passage work where we are delving into the thresholds and bringing in the restoration of these thresholds so that you can really root into this life season that you are in now, more embodied, more integrated, and more open to the vision that this season of your life has for you.
Oh, both of those sound amazing. I want to sign up to both of them. And tell me, Jane, the mentorship one, is that in person?
That is in person, so that is based in the Northwest. I am in
Okay.
Birkenhead, Prenton. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but if there's other women who want to reach me online, that is possible as well.
Great, great. Well, we'll link all the details in the show notes. So those of you who are feeling called to begin working with Jane as soon as possible, I would suggest signing up for either one of those or both of those if you can. Now, before we conclude this conversation, we do have a tradition where I ask a question, an anonymous question to my guests. Would you be willing to participate in that?
Sure.
Okay, so I forgot to get them out. They're just behind me here. So there are three levels of questions. Level one is quite an entry level, surface level question. Then there's level two, which is right in the middle. And level three is your deep truths and secrets. What level question would you like to answer?
I'm a deep woman, so I'll take the deep question.
Let's see. Okay, it's a big one. All right. It's a question by Maisie Williams. And the question is, what is your deepest fear?
Hmm. I'd say losing my child. I think as a mother, That's the deepest.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, 100%. I think that doesn't really need any further explanation, does it? I think those of us who are mums, or even if we're not mums, we were birthed by a mother. So, yeah, there's no connection like it. Thank you so much, Jane, for coming on the podcast today. I so appreciate you and your time. And I look forward to this being the beginning of something bigger, maybe some future work together, future collaborations together. Who knows? So, ladies, watch this space. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your beautiful energy as well. And I hope your listeners really receive from this conversation.
Before we finish today's episode, I just wanted to let my lovely local listeners know that I've created a brand new in-person offering called a Sacred Exhale. These are beautiful, reflective gatherings for women who are tired of carrying the stress and the heaviness of the week into their weekend and are craving a space to pause, breathe, reconnect, and reset in a more intentional way. Each session will be shaped around seasonal living, natural cycles, and lunar energies, weaving together a delicious fusion of practices such as meditation, breathwork, journaling, movement, intention setting, rituals, and soulful conversations. The gatherings are taking place at BWB, the Collective in Whetstone in Leicestershire, and I'll pop the booking link in the show notes if your soul is whispering, I need this. I would absolutely love to welcome you into this space. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Higher Self Mastery. If something landed, moved you, or sparked a shift, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and share this episode with a woman in your life that is also ready to rise. And if you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast, especially in these early days. It really helps others to find this work too. If you're craving deeper support and sisterhood, join my mailing list using the link below, where you'll be the first to receive free meditations, learn about up-and-coming retreats, and other ways that we can work together. Until next time, honor your truth and trust in the timing of your becoming.